First Contact. Admiral Zyxtal of the Skitanii expedition fleet had seen many worlds in his centuries of exploration, but nothing quite prepared him for the sight before him. The third planet of this unremarkable yellow star was absolutely blazing with artificial light, particularly across its northern hemisphere. What made it even more peculiar was the systematic pattern to these lights. They weren't just city illumination, but deliberate decorative patterns that seemed to serve no practical purpose. Captain Venare, what are our readings on these energy signatures? Zyxtal's secondary appendages twitched with curiosity as he studied the holographic display. Sir, they appear to be primarily primitive electrical illumination devices, but the power consumption is peculiar. Many of these lights are arranged in specific patterns, trees, stars, and various geometric shapes. And they're concentrated in residential areas rather than industrial or military installations. The bridge of the Skitanii vessel fell silent as they watched the planet rotate beneath them. Their stealth systems were operating at peak efficiency, making them invisible to the primitive radar systems they detected. But something about this display made Admiral Zyxtal wonder if perhaps these humans already knew they were being watched. Sir, Communications Officer Melvi's voice carried an unusual tremor, I'm picking up thousands of transmissions. But they're not military communications or distress signals. They appear to be songs. The Admiral's curiosity piqued. In all his years of first contact scenarios, he'd never encountered a species that responded to potential observation by singing and decorating their planet with lights. Either these humans were completely oblivious to their presence, or they were employing the most unusual defensive strategy he'd ever encountered. Play one of these transmissions, he ordered. The bridge speakers crackled to life with a melody that would forever change the course of galactic history. Silent night, holy night. The pure, harmonious voices singing in what their translators identified as something called English created an unexpected effect on the bridge crew. Several of the younger officers found their optical sensors moistening, a physiological response that hadn't been triggered in their species for generations. Analysis? Zyxtal demanded, trying to maintain his professional composure despite the strange sensation in his primary heart. Sir, we're detecting similar musical patterns being broadcast globally. According to our initial cultural data scan, this appears to be something called Christmas, a planetary celebration that combines various cultural and religious traditions. The humans are celebrating. Celebrating what, exactly? Peace, sir. Goodwill. Family. Something called figgy pudding, though our translators are struggling with that concept. Admiral Zyxtal made a decision that would later be debated in galactic councils for centuries. Instead of following standard first contact protocols, which would involve months of covert observation followed by a carefully orchestrated revelation of their presence, he opened a channel to the planet's primary communication networks. To the people of Earth, he began, his translator converting his words into all major human languages simultaneously, I am Admiral Zyxtal of the Skitanii expedition fleet. We come in peace, and we would very much like to understand what you are celebrating. The response was not what anyone on the bridge expected. Instead of panic or military mobilization, thousands of signals began broadcasting back to them, all carrying variations of the same message. Would you like to join us for Christmas dinner? The Admiral's third heart nearly stopped. In all his years of exploration, no species had ever responded to first contact by immediately inviting them to a meal. His crew looked to him for direction, their training useless in the face of such unprecedented hospitality. Sir, Captain Venare whispered, according to our scans, these invitations appear to be genuine. Thousands of individual human family units are offering to host us. They're even asking if we have any dietary restrictions. The Admiral made his second unprecedented decision of the day. Accept the invitation from. He scanned the thousands of offerings, selecting one at random, the Anderson family in something called Minnesota. And inform the High Council that we've made first contact. Though perhaps we should wait until after dinner to tell them exactly how it happened. As the Skatanii landing craft descended through Earth's atmosphere, guided by the cheerful instructions of Sarah Anderson, who was concerned they might have trouble finding parking, Admiral Zyxtal realized that everything they thought they knew about first contact protocols might need to be revised. The humans hadn't responded with fear or aggression, they had responded with hospitality, songs, and illuminated decorations. The landing craft touched down in what the Andersons called their backyard, the snow crunching under its landing struts. Through the viewport, Zyxtal could see a family standing on their back porch, wearing colorful sweaters and waving welcomingly. A small human child held up a crudely drawn sign that read, "Welcome Space Friends." "Sir," Captain Venare said quietly, "should we be concerned that they're taking this so casually?" Admiral Zyxtal watched as Mrs. Anderson hurried back inside, calling out that she needed to add more chairs to the dinner table. "No, Captain," he replied, "I think we should be grateful. Though I suspect the real challenge will be explaining to the High Council why our first official diplomatic contact with humanity involved something called eggnog and sugar cookies." As they prepared to disembark, a new transmission came through their communication system. "Oh, and Admiral?" Mrs. Anderson's voice carried what their translators identified as gentle concern. "I hope you don't mind, but we invited the neighbors too. They'd never forgive us if they missed meeting our first alien visitors on Christmas Eve." Looking at his crew's bewildered expressions, Admiral Zyxtal realized that this simple Christmas dinner might just reshape galactic diplomacy forever. And somehow, he was perfectly fine with that. Cultural exchange. The Andersons' living room was a study in organized chaos. Admiral Zyxtal, his four-armed frame awkwardly perched on a reinforced recliner, watched in fascination as Sarah Anderson orchestrated what she called emergency Christmas preparations. His crew members were scattered throughout the house, each engaged in what appeared to be critical holiday tasks assigned by their enthusiastic human hosts. "Now, Captain Venare, you have excellent attention to detail," Sarah was saying, passing him a box of delicate glass ornaments. "Would you mind helping Tommy with the tree? He's only 8, and these are family heirlooms." The captain, whose species had evolved from precision hunting arthropods, found himself carefully lifting the small human child to reach higher branches of the artificial evergreen. "Fascinating," he muttered, scanning the tree with his compound eyes. "The symmetrical placement of illuminated objects serves a ritualistic purpose." "Well, sort of," Tommy replied, hanging a sparkly red ball with the serious concentration only an 8-year-old could muster. "Mom says it's about making everything beautiful for Christmas. And for Santa." The mention of this Santa figure had come up several times, and Admiral Zyxtal made a mental note to investigate further. From what he'd gathered, this being possessed faster-than-light travel capabilities, matter replication technology, and some form of temporal manipulation to deliver packages globally in a single night. Yet the humans spoke of him with joy rather than fear. In the kitchen, Communications Officer Melvi was experiencing what she would later describe in her official report as sensory overload of the most pleasant variety. Mrs. Anderson, "Please, call me Carol," had enlisted her help in baking something called gingerbread cookies. The spices tickled her olfactory sensors in ways she hadn't known were possible. "The molecular composition of these ingredients," Melvi observed, watching Carol mix the dough, "they create complex chemical reactions that serve as both sustenance and pleasure indicators." Carol laughed, dusting flour off her apron. "Honey, sometimes a cookie is just a cookie. Here, try the dough, though I'm supposed to tell you there's raw egg in it." Melvi's analysis suite went into overdrive as she tasted the small amount of dough. Her species communicated partially through chemical signatures, and this was like tasting a symphony. This is permitted? This level of sensory indulgence? On Christmas? It's practically required, Carol winked. Wait until you try the finished cookies. And the hot chocolate. Outside, Security Chief Raxby found himself entangled in what the neighbors had assured him was a crucial Christmas tradition, untangling strings of outdoor lights. The fact that 3 different human families were now camped out in the Andersons' front yard, sharing hot beverages and helping with this task, struck him as remarkably inefficient yet oddly satisfying. "You see," explained Bob from next door, handling a particularly stubborn knot of wiring, "half the fun is complaining about doing it. It's tradition. A ritual of shared adversity promoting social bonding," Raxby theorized, using one of his pincer appendages to carefully separate 2 intertwined strands. "Nah, it's just Christmas," Bob chuckled. "Hey, once we get these up, want to help me inflate the giant snowman? It's 12 feet tall and waves." Back in the living room, Admiral Zyxtal was having an unexpectedly profound conversation with Mr. Anderson. "Jim, please, about the nature of gift-giving. So you deliberately conceal objects of value, wrap them in decorative materials, and then ceremonially reveal them at a designated time," the Admiral clarified. "That's right," Jim nodded, attempting to wrap what appeared to be a bicycle while keeping it hidden from Tommy's occasional curious glances. "It's about the surprise, the anticipation. The joy of giving something special to someone you care about. But our scans indicate that most humans are aware that many of these gifts are purchased in advance. The element of surprise seems artificial." Jim smiled, taping down a particularly rebellious corner of wrapping paper. "That's part of the magic, Admiral. We all know the gifts are bought and wrapped by people who love us, but we choose to share in the wonder of it all. Especially for the kids. Sometimes believing in something magical is more important than raw facts." The Admiral's secondary neural cluster processed this concept with difficulty. His species prided themselves on logic and precision, yet here was an entire civilization that willingly embraced what they knew to be technically false, all in service of creating joy and strengthening social bonds. The arrival of more neighbors, and eventually what appeared to be half the block, transformed the Andersons' home into what Sarah cheerfully called an impromptu Christmas party. Humans of all ages arrived bearing food, drinks, and an infectious enthusiasm for meeting their extraterrestrial guests. Most remarkably to the Scatanii crew, not a single human had asked about their technology, their weapons, or their intentions. Instead, they were bombarded with questions about whether they celebrated any holidays, if they'd like to participate in something called a Secret Santa, and if their species had any dietary restrictions they should know about for the upcoming Christmas dinner. As the evening progressed, Admiral Zyxtal found himself holding a cup of hot chocolate, carefully modified for his biology by Carol's quick thinking and Meldai's analysis, watching Tommy and several other human children teach Captain Venare the finer points of ornament arrangement. The captain's usually rigid military posture had relaxed, and he was engaging in what appeared to be a serious debate about whether tinsel was cheating when it came to tree decoration. A transmission from the Scatanii High Council blinked urgently in the Admiral's neural interface. They were, undoubtedly, awaiting his first contact report and risk assessment of the human species. Looking around the room, at his crew members engaged in various holiday activities, at the humans who had welcomed them without hesitation, he made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. 2. High Council. Preliminary assessment of human species, approach with caution. They possess a highly advanced form of social technology we have not encountered before. They call it Christmas spirit. Its effects are significant. Request permission to extend observation period through December 25, detailed report to follow. Note, send immediate clearance for crew participation in ritual known as Secret Santa. Cultural understanding may depend on it. As he sent the message, Tommy approached him with what appeared to be a small, wrapped package. "Mom says you're our guest, and guests always get to open one present on Christmas Eve," the boy explained solemnly. Admiral Zyxtal carefully took the package, aware that every human in the room was watching with warm anticipation. Inside was a hand-knitted scarf in what he would later learn were traditional Christmas colors. "I made it myself," Sarah explained, slightly nervously. "I hope 4 armholes are enough." The Admiral, leader of the most advanced exploration fleet in 3 sectors, decorated veteran of countless first-contact missions, felt his optical sensors begin to moisten again. "It's perfect," he said, and meant it. As his crew helped wrap the scarf around his carapace, Admiral Zyxtal realized that the humans had accomplished something extraordinary. In less than 1 planetary rotation, they had transformed a potential interstellar incident into a family gathering. They had done it not through technology or diplomacy, but through something far more powerful, genuine warmth and hospitality. A new transmission from the High Council arrived. Request clarification on Secret Santa protocol. Is this a human weapon system? Looking at Tommy showing Captain Venare how to make paper snowflakes, the Admiral smiled. In a manner of speaking, he transmitted back. But not the kind you're thinking of. Requesting immediate dispatch of Cultural Observation Team. And tell them to bring presents. Galactic ripples. News travels fast in an interconnected galaxy, but not as fast as rumors. Within hours of Admiral Zyxtal's cryptic messages to the High Council, the other major galactic powers began receiving fragmented reports about the Skitaniai's encounter with humanity. Each report seemed more outlandish than the last. In the Grand Chamber of the Kataskan Imperium, War Master Draken slammed his armored fist on the obsidian table. "What do you mean they're having dinner?" he roared at the holographic messenger. "The Skitanii are the most disciplined exploration force in the galaxy. They don't simply land on primitive worlds and attend social functions. The reports are consistent, War Master," the messenger's hologram flickered nervously. "Our long-range sensors confirm that the Skitanii flagship is parked in something called a suburban backyard. More concerning still, they appear to be decorating it with lights." Across the galaxy, in the crystalline spires of the Luminarch Collective, similar discussions were taking place. High Seer Verlana studied the incoming data streams with growing bewilderment. "These patterns make no sense," she murmured, her bioluminescent markings pulsing with confusion. The humans detected an advanced alien species in orbit and responded by increasing their power consumption on decorative illumination by 300%. And what is this reference to a high-speed delivery entity they call Santa Claus? Meanwhile, aboard the Skitanii flagship still hovering above Earth, First Officer Kexley was dealing with an unprecedented situation. The skeleton crew left to maintain the ship's systems had just received a transmission from the surface, from Admiral Zyxtal himself. "You want us to what?" Kexley asked, certain there must be some error in the transmission. "Convert Cargo Bay 3 into something called a winter wonderland," the Admiral's voice came through clearly. "The humans have agreed to host an interstellar Christmas party. Apparently, this is a normal escalation of their holiday celebrations. Officer Melvi is sending up specifications for artificial snow generation, and Captain Venare insists we need something called a hot chocolate fountain." Kexley looked at the stream of data flowing in from the surface team. The specifications included everything from gravity modifications to create a perfect sledding hill to temperature controls for optimal, cozy atmosphere. This was either the most elaborate first contact protocol ever devised or... "Sir," she ventured carefully, "has the human celebration affected your judgment?" There was a pause, then the Admiral's voice came back with an unusual warmth. "First Officer, in my centuries of exploration, I have never encountered a species that responded to first contact by teaching us how to make snow angels. The humans have achieved something our finest xenoanthropologists thought impossible, they've made first contact feel like coming home." Before Kexley could respond, a new signal cut across all frequencies. The Kataskan War Fleet, responding to the rumors of the Skitaniai's unusual behavior, had just entered the solar system. War Master Draken's harsh voice boomed across the communications channels. "This is a formal notice of intervention. The Kataskan Imperium is assuming control of this first contact scenario. All Skitanii personnel are ordered to withdraw. We will handle the humans, appropriately." The response came not from the Skitanii flagship, but from the Andersons' living room, where Sarah Anderson had overheard the transmission through Admiral Zweigstal's neural interface. "Oh no, they are not showing up uninvited to my Christmas party," Sarah declared, pulling out her phone. "Tommy, honey, call your Aunt Susan. She's on the neighborhood association board. Mr. Zweigstal, how many ships are in that fleet? I need to know how many places to set for dinner." Admiral Zweigstal watched in amazement as Sarah Anderson, suburban mom and now apparently amateur interstellar diplomat, began organizing what she called Operation Christmas Crash Course. Within minutes, her phone tree had activated, and households across the neighborhood were mobilizing. "The Kataskans are a warrior culture," he tried to explain. "They respect strength and—" "Perfect," Sarah interrupted, texting furiously. "Bob from next door was a Marine. He can explain Black Friday shopping to them. That should earn their respect. And Carol's competitive gift-wrapping skills are practically a weapon system." As the Kataskan war fleet approached Earth orbit, they were met with an unexpected sight. The Skatanii flagship, now festooned with twinkling lights and what appeared to be a giant inflatable snowman, was broadcasting a message on all frequencies. "Attention Kataskan fleet, you are cordially invited to humanity's first interstellar Christmas celebration. Attendance is mandatory. Bring a dish to pass. Gift exchange participation is non-negotiable. P.S. The Anderson family would like to remind you that proper RSVP etiquette is expected, even from invading alien armadas." War Master Draken, veteran of 1,000 campaigns, conqueror of star systems, found himself utterly unprepared for this response. His tactical systems were useless against whatever this was. "Sir," his second-in-command reported, "we're receiving thousands of individual invitations from human family units. They're asking about our food allergies. And something called ugly sweater preferences." In the Andersons' living room, Admiral Zweigstal watched Sarah coordinate what was rapidly becoming the galaxy's most unlikely diplomatic summit. Tommy was teaching Captain Venare how to make paper chains to decorate the Kataskan ships when they arrived. Carol was adapting her cookie recipes for various alien physiologies. And Bob from next door was setting up something he called a cosmic karaoke machine. "You know," Sarah said, reviewing her rapidly expanding party planning notes, "if they're coming all this way, we might as well invite the Luminarch Collective too. Their bioluminescence would look amazing on the Christmas light tour. And didn't you mention someone called the High Council? They should definitely come. No one should be alone on Christmas." Admiral Zweigstal sent one final message to the High Council: "Update on human cultural assessment, they appear to have weaponized hospitality. Recommend immediate diplomatic recognition and send someone who can make good eggnog." As Earth's night side continued to sparkle with Christmas lights, now joined by the illuminated forms of various alien spacecraft attempting to follow Sarah's decorating instructions, humanity had unknowingly revolutionized galactic diplomacy. They had discovered that sometimes the most powerful response to potential conflict was simply to insist that everyone join the party. And somewhere in the Andersons' kitchen, Officer Melvi was having an epiphany while teaching a group of fascinated alien diplomats how to decorate gingerbread cookies. Perhaps the greatest technology in the galaxy wasn't about weapons or starships at all. Maybe it was as simple as knowing how to make someone feel welcome, even if they happened to be a four-armed arthropod or a crystalline energy being. Universal celebration. The transformation of Earth's orbit into what media outlets were now calling the Intergalactic Christmas Convention happened with remarkable speed. Within 24 hours of the Kataskan fleet's arrival, the situation had evolved beyond anyone's wildest expectations. War Master Draken stood in the Andersons' basement, his massive battle armor looking oddly festive with a string of tinsel draped across its shoulders. He was engaged in what he considered the most challenging diplomatic negotiation of his career. "But young Thomas," he rumbled, "I still don't understand. If this Santa can achieve faster-than-light travel, why does he use primitive reindeer for propulsion?" Tommy, who had appointed himself Earth's official Christmas expert to the aliens, sighed with the patience of a child explaining something obvious to adults. "It's magic, Mr. Draken. You're thinking about it too hard. Want another cookie?" Upstairs, the situation was getting delightfully out of hand. The arrival of the Luminarch Collective's diplomatic delegation had turned the neighborhood into a spectacular light show. The crystalline aliens, fascinated by human Christmas decorations, had begun harmonizing their natural bioluminescence with the rhythm of Christmas carols. The synchronized photonic emissions create a most pleasing effect, High Seer Verlana observed, her body pulsing with red and green patterns. She was helping Sarah Anderson coordinate what had become a logistical miracle, the first Christmas party spanning multiple dimensions and species. "Oh, that's gorgeous!" Sarah exclaimed, watching the Luminarch delegates transform themselves into living Christmas trees. "But wait until you see what we've planned for the carol singing. We've got 100-voice human choir, your crystalline harmonics, and the Kataskan war drums. Carol from next door is calling it Silent Night, Intergalactic Edition." In orbit, First Officer Kex Lee had given up any pretense of maintaining normal ship protocols. Cargo Bay 3 of the Skatanii flagship had indeed become a winter wonderland, complete with artificially generated snow and gravity fields modified to create perfect sledding conditions. The sight of dignified alien diplomats learning to make snow angels would have been shocking enough, but then someone had introduced the concept of snowball fights. "This is a vital cultural exchange exercise," Admiral Zyxtal insisted, taking cover behind a snowbank as a barrage of perfectly spherical snow projectiles, crafted by the Kataskan's military-grade targeting systems, flew overhead. "The humans say it's traditional." The Skatanii High Council's observation team had arrived expecting to document a potential security threat. Instead, they found themselves judging a multi-species gingerbread house building competition. The Luminarch entry, which defied several laws of physics and glowed from within, was particularly impressive. But perhaps the most remarkable transformation was happening in the diplomatic sphere. The Andersons' living room had become an unlikely hub of interstellar relations. Representatives from various galactic powers, many of whom had been enemies for centuries, found themselves sharing hot chocolate and comparing notes on their favorite Christmas carols. "You have to understand," Jim Anderson explained to a group of fascinated alien diplomats, "Christmas has always been about bringing people together. We just never imagined it would end up bringing species together too." The impact of Earth's Christmas spirit on galactic politics was profound and unexpected. The Kataskan War Master, after experiencing his first candy cane, had declared a unilateral holiday ceasefire. The Luminarch Collective was proposing an annual intergalactic Christmas light festival. And the Skatanii High Council was seriously discussing making eggnog their official diplomatic beverage. But it was Tommy Anderson who inadvertently sparked the most significant diplomatic breakthrough of all. During the neighborhood's traditional Christmas Eve cookie decorating session, now attended by representatives from 17 different species, he asked an innocent question. "If you guys all have spaceships and cool technology and stuff, how come you spend so much time fighting instead of having parties like this?" The question, translated into multiple alien languages, caused a moment of profound silence. The gathered representatives of vast interstellar empires found themselves being gently schooled in peace and goodwill by an 8-year-old human with frosting on his nose. "Young Thomas raises a valid point," War Master Draken said thoughtfully, carefully applying sprinkles to his cookie with surprising delicacy. "Our military budget could fund many such gatherings." Indeed, High Seer Verlana's crystals chimed melodiously. "Perhaps we have overlooked the diplomatic potential of shared celebrations." Admiral Zyxtal, watching this exchange while wearing his four-armed Christmas sweater, expertly knitted by Sarah, realized that humanity had accomplished something extraordinary. Without advanced technology or military might, they had managed to create peace simply by making it more appealing than conflict. The evening culminated in what would later be known as the Great Intergalactic Carol Sing. Humans and aliens gathered in the Andersons' backyard, their voices and various sound-producing appendages joining in harmony. The Luminarca's crystalline resonance provided a shimming backdrop to the human choir, while the Kataskan war drums added a surprisingly festive percussion section. As Silent Night echoed across the galaxy through countless communication channels, something unprecedented happened. Ships from other alien civilizations, drawn by the broadcasts and rumors, began arriving in Earth's orbit. Each new arrival was immediately caught up in the celebration, assigned a dish to bring to the potluck, and given a hastily wrapped present. Sarah Anderson, looking at her backyard full of aliens learning to roast marshmallows, with varying degrees of success, turned to Admiral Zyxtal with a smile. "You know what this means, don't you? Next year's Christmas party is going to have to be even bigger." The Admiral, who had just received a transmission indicating that the Galactic Council itself was considering attending next year's celebration, couldn't help but agree. Humanity had not only survived first contact, they had turned it into the galaxy's greatest holiday party. The gift of peace. As Christmas morning dawned over the Anderson household, the scene was unlike anything in human or alien history. The living room, now temporarily phase-shifted to accommodate guests of various sizes and dimensional preferences, was filled with an impossible collection of beings all waiting for Tommy to wake up and start the gift-opening ceremony. "Is it traditionally acceptable to wake the young human?" War Master Draken whispered to Sarah Anderson, his massive frame awkwardly perched on a reinforced couch. "The anticipation is affecting my combat readiness." "That's called Christmas morning excitement," Sarah smiled, adjusting a bow on one of the thousands of presents that now filled not just the living room but 3 additional pocket dimensions provided by the Luminarch Collective. "And no, we let him sleep a little longer. More hot chocolate." In the kitchen, Carol's traditional Christmas morning breakfast preparations had evolved into an interstellar culinary summit. Chef scientists from 17 different civilizations were collaborating on making pancakes compatible with every known form of biological and energy-based life. The integration of maple syrup into non-carbon-based nutritional systems is fascinating, a Luminarch food scientist observed, their crystalline form sparkling with enthusiasm. Though perhaps we should warn the methane breathers about the effects of cinnamon. Outside, the neighborhood had become a wonderland that defied description. The Skatanii flagship, now completely decorated in lights and holographic snow, hovered over the cul-de-sac like a technological Christmas tree. The Luminarch delegates had transformed entire streets into crystalline light sculptures. Even the Kataskan war fleet had gotten into the spirit, their massive ships arranged in the shape of a giant orbital Christmas wreath. But the most remarkable transformation wasn't physical, it was diplomatic. In the Andersons' garage, now converted into an impromptu conference room, representatives from historically hostile species were drafting what would become known as the Christmas Accords. Article 1, Admiral Zyxtal read aloud, "All signatory species agree to the establishment of an annual intergalactic Christmas celebration, with Earth recognized as the cultural center of holiday festivities." Article 2, High Seer Verlana added, her crystals pulsing with diplomatic satisfaction, "The exchange of gifts, cookies, and hot chocolate is hereby recognized as a fundamental tool of peaceful interaction between civilizations." War Master Draken, who had discovered a particular fondness for candy canes, contributed, Article 3, "The tradition of ugly Christmas sweaters shall be recognized as a unifying cultural practice, with annual competitions held to celebrate the most aesthetically challenging designs." The garage door opened, and Tommy walked in, still in his pajamas, rubbing sleep from his eyes. The assembled diplomats immediately fell silent, all attention turning to the small human who had, unknowingly, helped reshape galactic relations. "Mom says it's time for presents," he announced sleepily. "But everybody has to have breakfast first." The resulting rush to the kitchen nearly created a diplomatic incident, saved only by Carol's careful organization of the pancake queue according to species, size, and number of appendages. As Christmas morning unfolded, the exchange of gifts became a profound exercise in interstellar understanding. The Kataskans, traditionally feared as ruthless warriors, had spent weeks crafting intricate toys. The Luminarch Collective had created crystalline ornaments that captured and replayed happy memories. The Scatanii exploration fleet had mapped out and wrapped entire star systems as vacation destinations for their human friends. Tommy's gift to the assembled aliens, a hand-drawn Guide to Christmas, complete with crayon illustrations, was immediately declared a document of supreme cultural importance and copied into every major galactic archive. But perhaps the most significant moment came when Sarah Anderson presented her gift to the galaxy, a simple invitation. Next year, she announced to the assembled representatives of countless civilizations, "We're doing this bigger. Every species, every system. No exceptions, no excuses. Christmas is for everyone." The impact of this declaration was immediate and far-reaching. Across the galaxy, ancient enemies began tentative discussions about coordinating their Christmas light displays. Trade routes were redrawn to accommodate optimal cookie delivery systems. The Galactic Council, traditionally concerned with power politics and territorial disputes, found itself debating the proper composition of an intergalactic carol-singing committee. As the day drew to a close, Admiral Zyxtal stood in the Andersons' backyard, watching ships from across the galaxy dance in complex patterns against Earth's sunset. Next to him, Tommy was explaining the concept of New Year's celebrations to an increasingly excited group of alien diplomats. "You know," Sarah said, joining them with a fresh tray of hot chocolate, "when you first landed in our backyard, I never imagined it would lead to all this." The Admiral, wearing all four of his Christmas sweaters, he couldn't bear to choose just one, nodded thoughtfully. "We came seeking new worlds and new civilizations. Instead, we found something far more valuable, a reminder that sometimes the greatest power in the universe is simply the willingness to welcome others and share what brings you joy." "Also cookies," Tommy added seriously. "Cookies are very important for intergalactic peace." As if to prove his point, a minor dispute over star system boundaries between two distant empires was being peacefully resolved over Carol's snickerdoodles. The story of humanity's first alien Christmas would be told for generations across the galaxy. How a single family's hospitality prevented an invasion, how a child's understanding of Christmas spirit created peace, and how Earth became the unlikely heart of the greatest annual celebration in the known universe. In the years that followed, the sight of alien ships arriving for the Christmas season became as normal as holiday traffic. The Andersons' Christmas card list grew to include beings from thousands of worlds. And every year, without fail, Sarah made sure there was room at the table for any new civilizations who might drop by. As the first Christmas stars began to appear in the evening sky, now joined by the twinkling lights of countless alien vessels, Tommy looked up at Admiral Zyxtal and asked, "Will you come back next year?" The Admiral, who had already submitted a formal request to the High Council for permanent assignment as Christmas cultural attaché to Earth, smiled. "Young Thomas, I don't think anyone who has experienced a human Christmas could ever stay away. Besides," he added, checking his cultural database, "I believe next year I'm in charge of bringing the eggnog." And so, on a small planet circling an unremarkable star, humanity had unknowingly created something unprecedented, a celebration so powerful it brought peace to the galaxy, one cookie at a time. The end.